Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
All right, welcome to the Healthy Neighborhood Advisory Committee meeting on December 10th, 2025. We're calling this meeting to order at 5:35 p.m. And our first item on the agenda is the approval of last meeting's minutes from October. Is there any discussion or comments on those meeting minutes? Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hamilton. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Amazing. And can I have all people in favor say aye? Any opposed say nay?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Lovely. The motion carries unanimously. Public appearances for non-agenda items. Jill, are you here for an agenda item? Are you?
No.
Yeah.
With the recent restructuring of the departments, maybe Jessica has shared, but as of Monday, I'm officially in charge of, not in charge, but working with
Yeah.
Jessica, falling under the new umbrella of the Community Service and Recreation. So I am just here to learn.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you for the clarification. I remember.
No problem. No problem.
Okay, lovely. So no public appearances. Moving on to agenda item number 4, we have agenda review. We have a couple of agenda items, some resolutions, then report from department, announcements, and adjournment. Does anybody need to move any agenda items around? Great. All right, agenda item 5A. So we have this microgrant proposal, and it says to discuss a new initiative of a microgrant program targeting the priority neighborhoods. I didn't see anything on this in the agenda packet, but I would love if staff could give us some more information about this.
Can you guys hear me? Because this is odd for me since okay. So the purpose of this agenda item is for all of us to discuss a potential microgrant program coming through the city. We're looking to get information on what the goal of this program would be, also what community needs or gaps we would be trying to address with this program, and what success might look like for this program. So it's an open discussion to get feedback about a potential initiative for a microgrant program. So,
has there been any sort of like preparation discussions on this? Like, can you give us a little bit of an idea about like what has been kind of bounced around?
mm-hmm.
Or do you want this to be more unstructured and kind of have our ideas?
A little bit of both. So there is the idea kind of floating around is that we would take some of the funding from the grant program that we have now, roughly about $4,000 and reallocate that towards a micro grant program that we would roll out in 2026. So it's not taking a substantial amount. We would pilot the program. Roughly $1,000 would be allocated for each neighborhood, and then it would be a rolling application process. There's no documents solidified yet internally, but I guess from all of you, we're looking to have more of an open discussion of your thoughts on this program. Again, goals, objectives, outcomes that you would like to see, if you think it would be beneficial for the neighborhoods. Ultimately, you all live in the neighborhoods, and so your feedback is important. Yeah, Caitlin, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm curious, how would this program differ from the grants that we currently are offering? What would be what would be the advantage of the difference in offering these micro grants?
So the thought for the micro grant program is to get some resident-led initiatives going and give, I guess, let me think of the right word here, some autonomy to residents to create their own programming. So if they'd like a community meal or they'd like a craft night, it's so that way if there's a monetary fiscal barrier, then people can apply to get that funding to have that programming and help build community within these neighborhoods. From what I've been, there's not, I guess, from what I've seen, there's not a strong, I don't want to say community, there's definitely community in the neighborhoods, but I would say like association or designated group, and so the idea is to get residents funding to hold programming that they would like to see. And with the larger grant program, it's organizations picking the programming.
So just a quick follow-up, does that mean that we would not have to require nonprofit status for applicants?
That is a great question. A question I also have, that is a legal question for the attorney here, and I do not have an answer on that. The hope would be that we can get the microgrant program so that they don't have to be a 501c3.
I would like to assume that based on the proposed benefit of such a microgrant, I don't think there would be a nonprofit requirement attached to that. I think there would likely have to be any residents of the Pirate neighborhood above the age of 18 would be one to qualify for such a grant. Would be my proposed suggestion.
Mark, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just a follow up on where this started from. Where's the money coming from to fund this, and how much do we have? You think are we going to have allocated? Is this going to impact from our current amount of money we have for the larger grants?
Yeah, so the funding would be pulled from the large amount of grants, the funding that we have for the larger grants right now, and we're looking at roughly pulling $4,000 from that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that it would be really cool to have neighbors kind of have like block parties or like pizza parties or, craft nights. I think that would be really cool. I'm not sure if some other okay, so I'm kind of thinking that like the HOA that is in this area might try and apply for a micro grant too. I'm not phrasing this well, but what I'm trying to say is I think that we might get applicants who aren't individuals, applicants who might have access to more money, also trying to apply for these micro grants. So that might be like a consideration as far as whether we want to have more criteria about who is applying. I think it's a really cool idea. I think that it would be so cool if we could get more neighbor-led initiatives and community building through community events.
I would also like to note that in the application, there would probably be some requirement, well, there would be a requirement that the programming needs to occur in a priority neighborhood.
And maybe some sort of requirement about like who is welcome at the event, as far as like it has to be open to priority neighborhood residents. I don't know if we want to say like open to all priority neighborhood residents in whichever priority neighborhood, but yeah.
I think if it's held in the neighborhood, yes, everyone who lives there and in the surrounding areas is welcome to come. I don't think that it would be an invite. I would not award funding to an invite-only community event.
I think that for me, if what this micro grant could do that the other grant can't do is provide opportunities for residents of neighborhoods to not only have a more accessible application process, which the current process is a little more involved, but also not be attached to a 501c3, then I think some of the other, we'd want to talk through some of the other stipulations, but as an idea to move forward, I think it would be a great idea if it can put more of that agency into folks rather than organizations.
That's the primary goal, is to give the residents, I don't want to say responsibility, but the funding so that they feel like it's community events they're holding, and not the city coming in and holding an event or a different organization. It's like completely grassroots for each of these neighborhoods.
Okay, sorry. One follow-up question was the original idea to kind of limit it to an event, or could it also be something that's not an event that would benefit the neighborhood?
It can be something that's not an event. Again, from my perspective, the residents know their neighborhoods the best. If they come forward and they're like, this is what we need, we don't need a community meal, we don't need a craft night, we feel like we need a neighborhood sign, then I'm not going to argue with that. If that is what the need is, I am not one to tell them no. They know their neighborhood's the best.
And just to add to that, I do agree with that. I think it should be extensive as to what the funds could be used for. And it should range from something as, community celebrations, which we've kind of highlighted, as well as, improvements of the neighborhood or beautification of the neighborhood. It should also include, health and safety initiatives as well, even if they're on a small scale, such as, group works, outdoor fitness and wellness events, activities. And it could also be educational and family initiatives as well, after school tutoring groups and things of that nature. Just something to bring the community together. And, city members can also attend those events and also further build relationship with the community and foster engagement overall.
That would be the goal. Again, and if it went well, again, if we pilot it this year and it goes well, maybe we decide we want to allocate more money in 2027 to give the residents more ownership there rather than the organizations we're currently working with. This year would just be a experimental year to see how things go and how the community feels about the program.
The one major question I would have is how do we intend to spread the word? Because I think information and access to such information is the limitation to majority of the success of the programs that we roll out when it comes to funding. It is being on a micro scale. I think we have to be very creative about how we actually get the word out to the everyday residents of this neighborhood to ensure that they understand that this is available, they understand the purpose that is for such funds, and also how to access them. And also being sure that we give amplitude of time for application process from the time in which we launch the information campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a question. That's a great question. A question I've also had of like, how can we get this to the right people so that they can apply? And also, how can we make it easy for people to apply so it doesn't feel like a chore and something that's extensive? Because when I'm going through this, I always think of, you know, myself of is this something I would apply for? Would I put my time towards this? Do I feel like my time would be worthwhile for this? So those are both great questions. My initial thought was to work with some of the agencies already in the neighborhoods. Some of the neighborhoods have like bulletin boards, so posting on there some flyers that just say, have an idea for something that you'd like to see in your neighborhood. You can apply for funding, have a QR code and a link that people can use if they'd like. Also, with you all being aware, hoping that you know some people in the neighborhood that you could talk to and spread the word of that there's micro grants available to the residents there, and if they have a project, then they're welcome to apply. But I'm open to any suggestions you may have when it comes to spreading the word and the information about these grants.
Well, Jessica, don't you have navigators up there in some of those areas? And you've got a brand new hub up by Leopold that is one place you could use. You've got the Boys and Girls Club over on over in the Allied area. I mean, there's two of the four right there, and I think there's a group getting organized in Southdale. I think I might be wrong, but I think I've heard some of that. So I would start with it. I really like Caitlin's comment about being grassroots. This will give people accountability, and if it's an event one time, if it's a sign like Cherie said, I mean, I think it's a good idea to use this for everybody or try to make it for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you can legally run it through, I think it's a good idea.
Great. Oh, for the navigator comment, Mark. Right now, we don't have a navigator. That's on hold. We are going to reopen that position in January at the new year. The hope is to I'm really pushing finding someone bilingual. I think it's very important for that position. With the events that I've gone to with the navigators, there's a lot of bilingual speakers. So we're waiting to the new year to open that, but as we go through the agenda, and you'll see at the end here, there's a resolution to pass the contract that we have with Dane County for 2026, so we will be getting that funding again to have a navigator in 26.
And just to clarify, that neighborhood navigator is only for the North Fish Hatchery Road, Leopold area, right?
No, it has expanded to the entire city of Fitchburg, so the navigator can go anywhere in Fitchburg. It covers the whole city.
Awesome. Jessica, was there anything else that staff, was there anything else that you wanted from us as far as this discussion goes for the microgrant proposal?
I had a question here of, I think a big part of this is measuring the success of this program. And I'm wondering what you all would think success looks like for this microgrant program. Is it just people getting together and having or doing whatever they feel like is necessary? Does it look different than that? I wanted to get all of your feedback there.
I think one of the key ones we should focus on would be, at least for starters, would be the number of applications that we receive from each neighborhood. I think that would give us a gauge of how far we're able to get our information out there. And then if we do approve a few applicants over time, we can also gauge based on number of residents that actually engage with each project that's activated. And that could be a metrics to get an idea of how inclusive it is and the rate of participation in the grants or the applications that are approved.
Yeah, those are good points. The other thing I considered was, if we have an application that rolls through and they requesting $1,000, how could it be decided? Do we fund the $1,000 project and then that neighborhood that they've used up all of their funding for the entire year, or do we wait? I don't know. I don't know if that's a problem we'll even run into, but it was something I thought maybe we should consider is, would it be, we fund multiple projects or just the one? It depends on how many applications roll through. But I do think those are questions that will come up as we roll out this program, or this initiative, I should say.
Oh, wait, let me understand this. What's the amount available annually for this again?
So it'll be like 1,000 allocated for each neighborhood, tentatively. None of this is set in stone yet. I do want to make that clear.
I think that would really depend on turnout, depending on the number of applications we get and the strength of them. And I think there needs to be a decision metrics that's inclusive and extensive for us to be able to decide which of those applicants get awarded or if we indeed fund multiple. But I think that would have to be based on the turnout. I'm not sure if there's any other way we can determine that beforehand, in all honesty.
I'm not raising my hand here, but one way to do this is say year one from each area up to $1,000, and then see how it goes from there. I mean, that gets you out of the start line, and you can see how it goes.
Yeah.
Just leave it open enough.
I like that idea, Mark. Really good point.
As far as success criteria, I also feel like one other I mean, there are a lot of different kind of factors that I would love to track if possible, but one would be like the applicant themselves and how satisfied they are with the application process. If it's too cumbersome that they wouldn't want to do it again, then I would feel like that would, be data that we would want to know.
Yeah, just to elicit their feedback. I also thought too, if they're having a community event, maybe just requesting that they have a sign-up sheet of residents, if they wanted to include their contact information, so that way we can reach out with other information, or if they would have suggestions of the best way to contact them, whether it's through social media or other sources, so that way we can make sure that they're getting information.
That's
That would be
really good.
That would be like for the city to communicate with them, or specifically this committee, or
I would say both the city, and then if the neighborhood who held the program wanted to have access to that information, they're also available of like, here's your neighbors, here's the information that they provided, their phone numbers, whatever it may be, if you want to reach out.
That's a really great idea. And that could be accompanied by a survey as well, a very short survey on the project or the program itself. That also gives us a little bit insight on residents' feedback of the respective projects as well.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on the micro grant?
So is there any actionable item for
No,
this?
it's not. It's just a thought discussion to get some feedback as we go through internally making the materials for this.
I love that idea, Sharif, of having a survey for the residents who attend, like really short survey. And if there could be some sort of question around, did you meet someone new? Or just kind of a question around community connection, I feel like that could be a really valuable data point for success of this initiative.
I will say I'm hesitant to give out a survey, especially at like
Okay.
the first event, because the city gives out so many surveys, and I feel like people are taking them a lot. So I'm not opposed to the idea, but I am hesitant because I feel like people are getting surveys all the time, and I don't know. I don't want the event to come off of like, oh, it's another way to gather information. I do want it to just feel like it's a community event where people can talk and gather and be with each other.
Yeah, but keep in mind though, it's an opportunity because information is key for us, and sometimes getting high rate of engagements, especially at very niche time, is difficult to do, and sometimes we need to compound information over time to be able to assess them and make decisions based on those information.
Mm-hmm.
And the survey necessarily doesn't have to be driven by the city, it can be driven by the host of the projects and the programs themselves. We can just stipulate in the application as to expectations or guidelines to a such survey, but they can be creative in their own ways in regards to how they, compile their survey, and we can just review those during the application process itself as well,
Mm-hmm.
and make suggestions.
I don't know how anybody feels about this idea, but at the end of at the airport, at the end of TSA check-in, they have this little like set of buttons that you can press, and one is like a red like frowny face, one is a yellow like mid face, and one is a green happy face, and you literally just press a button and it collects the data. I don't know if something like that would even be possible
We could even do
to have
something
and rent out.
over the summer with the stickers. I go back to we could just do something with like red, yellow, and green stickers instead of it being a
There we go, low tech, yeah.
But we can talk more about this as, like I said, this is just a thought discussion right now. The process for this, depending on legal things, could take a little bit longer than any of us would expect. But I thought it was a good idea to start that conversation now to get feedback about maybe things that staff might miss or overlook that you all would think is necessary to have in a micro grant, and also talk about taking a small portion of the funding we have for the larger grants away for something like this.
Well, Jessica, it sounds like the group's giving it a positive thumbs up as an idea. I guess I'd flush it out and then let Ari bring it back to the group to have for final approval once the city goes through their gyrations. But I still come back to the idea that Sharif said, getting these neighborhoods feeling like they're engaged in something directly and they'll have some accountability and grassroots and ownership. So I think it's a good idea to try. Just make sure it's set up so we don't get in trouble down the road if something doesn't quite go right with it. So
Yeah.
good luck from my end.
Thanks.
Is there any more discussion or questions on microgrant proposal? All right. Well, thank you for that rich discussion. Agenda item 5B is the Healthy Neighborhoods Strategic Plan Update. Staff, do you have any background on this agenda item?
Yes. So this is I just wanted to keep you all informed about the strategic plan with the micro grant initiative and the grants coming up. The goal for me was to have a more rough draft prepped for this. It's not completed at the moment. Again, we're getting there. It's in the works. But I did want to keep you all updated. We've got the inputs from the outreach is together, and then we're working on data. Jill and I had a good discussion today about this plan, kind of how we see it going, but it is a priority to get this done and bring it to all of you.
Okay. Yeah, that scared me a little bit because when I saw that on the agenda item, I was like, did I get an iteration that I missed in my email somewhere? And I started searching, like, where is it? Where is it? I can't find it.
No, I'll when it's done, I'll give you guys plenty of time to look through it, so you can. And again, I want to make it very clear: you are welcome and encouraged to put red pen all over this thing. I understand it's not going to be perfect when you get it. It will be a rough draft, and your job is to help make it not so rough with your input, and it's important so that way we have a good working document for the city.
Lovely. Thank you for all of your work on that. So agenda item 5C is the 2026 meeting schedule, and in the agenda packet for this meeting, there was a tentative proposal of a schedule as well as a grant schedule. So staff, would you be willing to present that?
Yep, I'll share my screen. Get it pulled up here. Okay. There we go. So this is what we're looking at for the meeting schedule for next year. We did push it to the second Wednesday of the month, so we'll no longer be meeting, well, depending on what you all say, tentatively right now the plan is to meet on the second Wednesday of the month. So in January we'll go through the application materials. I'll point out some things that'll be new for 2026 and talk about those, and then I'll send those out, all of the application materials, to you guys as well. So if there's anything that you feel like needs changed, taken out, put in, you can bring that to the meeting on the 14th. And then the 11th, that's to be determined what we'll be talking about at that meeting. We'll be in between that's the time when, for me, the 2025 grantees will be submitting all of their materials and receipts and things for me to be looking through, but then also the 2026 applicants will be applying during that time as well. End of March, we'll have the applicants come in and present their proposals to all of you. Most of you are familiar with this process. You've been through it before. So again, I'll make the presentation, get all of the materials, and then send those to all of you before that meeting. On the 8th, we'll go through discussion where we review and approve the grants. So between March and April, during that month, you all will be scoring the applications, and then we'll come together on the 8th. And like last year, I'll go through, I have a document where we put all the numbers together, do some averages, a little bit of math to kind of make those recommendations to all of you. And then May and June, the 2025 grantees will come in and present their finalized projects and what they did during this past year. October, I will discuss with all of you the mid-year check-in updates. I was going to keep that the same as we did this year. Instead of them coming and presenting mid-year, I will do one-on-one check-ins with all of our grantees to see how things are going, and then summarize that and bring that to all of you. And in November, it's also a to-be-determined meeting. Are there any questions, any dates we'd like to change? I know we have a little bit of flexibility, especially if there's to be determined dates. If we wanted to keep those, if we didn't want to do something in February, did something in August or December, that's an option as well. It's up to you guys.
Well, I'm noticing that a lot of our meetings will be taken up with the grant, and that's fine as of now, but I am curious to know about the strategic plan and whether we'll want to have other priorities kind of added in, and if so, then we won't really have a lot of meetings to do other priorities. But in addition to that, we don't seem to have a lot of time in these proposed meetings for working on the strategic plan. And so I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts as far as maybe there are particular dates that you're anticipating there might be extra time to also discuss the strategic plan. Like, for example, January 14th, I don't know if reviewing the grant application materials is going to take a full, meeting time. So yeah, basically your thoughts on the Healthy Neighborhood Advisory Committee strategic plan.
Yeah, so that
Ari,
plan, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh no, sorry, it was Donald. I was just gonna say, Ari, is it possible that maybe even we have like a subcommittee that kind of reviews the grant applications and does like a report out to the larger group, or is it important that the entire group refer those? Because then that could potentially cut out some of the meeting time that it would take for everybody kind of reviewing these. And I didn't know if that was something you would entertain as chair, or how others feel about that opportunity.
I am more than happy to entertain any and all ideas about subcommittees forming in order to kind of offload some of the work from these meetings. But I will say that these meetings are, recorded and presented to the public. So if there are if there is like information that we would like for the public to be able to see, for it to be visible, then it would make sense to have it.
Oh yeah, that is right. I forgot about that. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the only other thought there that I'm thinking.
I can circle back on the strategic plan. So that it will be at the meetings when the draft is complete. It will be on agenda when it makes sense, and when I wouldn't do it on the day we're going to review and approve all the grants, or when we have presentations coming in, because those are already long meetings. But when we have time in the schedule, like I said, that plan will not be approved without all of you laying eyes on it.
I'm actually kind of curious about, potentially having some subcommittees help with working on maybe any aspects of that strategic plan, or like once it's more, once the draft is more finalized, maybe we could have subcommittees work on maybe wordsmithing or editing in more detail. So that's maybe another option as well.
does the strategic plan have to go to after it leaves this committee, go to the Community Equity Committee as well for approval before council, or does it leave here and then go straight to council after that? Do folks know?
The plan is to also take it to the Community Equity Committee as well.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how we could do this, but it would be best if we could like streamline it in a way to where like duplicated efforts are not being done. To where like if H&I is looking at it, they're looking at it from a certain perspective and provide certain input. And then after that is approved from this group, then if it goes to CEAC, they're looking at it from a certain vantage point. So we're not like undoing work that potentially was done or people doing duplicated efforts. I think that would be a better way to kind of like streamline our processes here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my concern with doing having a lot of committees put eyes on this is it's going to take it a really long time to get it adopted. Not that we don't want the input, but the quicker this goes through, the faster the actual work can start getting done.
I agree.
Any more thoughts or questions? On the schedule? Again, we can move things around. This is tentative. That's why it says tentative at the top. If we get somewhere and we're like, you know, it might be better to have a meeting in December instead of February, that can change. It's just a tentative schedule for all of you. Caitlin?
Yeah, the one other thing I'm thinking about, and this is actually kind of different from what's already been shared, right? That we need probably more time where we're addressing things outside of the grants. I have felt in the past like we didn't have enough time prior to the review process to really get clear on how we're going through the review process and what we're really looking for. I think a lot of the times we find that most of our applications really like check all the boxes and hit all the marks. So I don't know if that would be something to consider for that February 11th conversation, but I know for me it would be helpful to get clearer on how we want to go through the process of the review and what we want to be focusing on, prioritizing, etc.
Yeah, I can put that in the January meeting to have a discussion about that, because I think as we go through those materials, because in those materials, what is released to the public, one of them is the grant evaluation, the document, the questions that you all answer. So if we want to add a question or multiple questions to make things clearer for you and help in that decision-making process, it would be beneficial to do it January 4th, so then I can go in and edit that document and post it onto the city's website, so it's also available for the public. Mark?
Yeah, I think what Caitlin said makes a lot of sense, because I remember last year, if I recall from reading and reviewing every one of those, we talked a little bit about what are the most important things. Food came back as one last year. Mm-hmm. And I think as we looked at some of that, what are those things that we're going to go to this year? I think food's still hanging out there. But what other things do we want to think about as we prioritize it? Also making sure that everybody on the committee takes time to review these grants, because you can't just go through them in 30 seconds. I'm joking when I say that, of course, but I mean, it's going to take some time to get them done. So allow enough time for us to review them and then come back with that feedback so we can all make good decisions as it moves forward. I think the comment Ari made is quicker we can get past the strategic plan and get it going is a good thing. Setting up goals for the grants next year is a good thing as well. So, I mean, I think you've outlined a year. I like the flexibility of these dates, because I know you had time getting to Wednesday, but I think you've got a plan here that moves us into the next year. My 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. I am thinking about, because I also had the same thought of it was challenging to distinguish, who do we not fund? I think it's easier with the evaluation to see, oh, we could fund all of these people. How do we figure out who we don't? So one of the, when I come to the January 14th meeting, something that I thought about implementing into the evaluation for all of you is having you rank them from 1 to X. So however many applications we get, you would rank, who is your number 1 priority to fund, and then go all the way until however many applications there are. So from number 1 to say number 14, I think would help clarify some things in that ranking. But again, we can have a larger discussion about this on the 14th of, what questions can we put in there to help make things clearer for everybody.
Could I just chime in really quickly?
Yeah, of course.
Please do.
Jessica and I talked a little bit about this today, and I've been with the city for quite some time, and I was involved when they started this process years ago, and this is really near and dear to my heart because I think it's really important. When Jessica and I were reviewing the strategic plan, and she showed me a lot of the information from the community engagement and the dots and that kind of stuff, I was thinking that would be a really nice tool to help award these grants, because we need this direct correlation from what the community is telling us that they need. And there's such high level things, but there's smaller things too. Because like the micro grants, I think that's the whole intention, is to listen to what the community really wants and what they need. And so if there's any data we can pull from that community engagement that Jessica did during the summer with each neighborhood, that maybe there's some ranking that says, yeah, that's directly what the residents want. That's what they said. And if there's grant applications that can kind of correlate to what they want, that maybe they're prioritized a little higher. Just a thought.
My other thought with this is, and Jill and Donald, you may know better than I do, I'm not sure how much we can change without taking it to council to get approved. I don't think we can do a whole rewrite of it, essentially. I do think that there's some things that can be tweaked, but from my understanding, if we do like a big change, we would need to take to council to have that approved. But again, Jill and Donald,
I don't think you have to. I guess it depends on what specifically we're talking about, because I guess the initial plan was approved like by council for the consultant to come in and do the work that was done, and that's what she was contracted to do. However, like, I don't think there are parameters to which this committee can edit or suggest, honestly. Like, I think those suggestions or edits can be made, and then of course they'll come to council, and the folks will have to review them and say yay or nay or send it back. But I don't believe there are parameters around that. Like, I can ask, more specifically, I can ask Gabriella or as our council president or Julia, but I'm almost positive, like the other things that I've seen that have functioned in this capacity, folks have just provided whatever they needed to, and then those edits or suggestions were approved or not, or sent back or whatever for further discussion.
But so they would need to be approved?
Correct. So like what will happen is if we made something to like made edits or suggestions to the strategic plan, it'll get put on the agenda, and then it'll come to council, and then it'll say, like, when I give the report, it'll say like, yes, H&I approved, and then council will have to approve it again, or we'll say, no, we need to look at this more closely, and it could potentially be sent back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking for the grant specifically, like if we changed the priorities or I don't know, something a little bit more specific in the evaluation form.
That part I don't know, but I can ask about for us, and I can get back to you. I can just connect with you tomorrow about that language specifically, and then maybe you could communicate it out to the larger group. But I'll ask Gabriella about that.
Okay. Yeah. That's just because I don't want to, if we have to do that, then we have to release the grants later, and we're already with the change of the schedule or our meeting dates, the grants will already they'll be getting their funding later than they're typically used to because of how council's schedule works out. So I just don't want to push it back so far that the organizations are getting their funding much later than they have in the past.
Gotcha. Understand. Okay, cool.
Any more questions on our schedule here? And then I'll show you all the grant timeline. So this is tentatively what we're looking at for the grants. Like I said, council will approve at the end of April. In the past, it's been at the beginning. So we're pushing it back just a couple weeks, but that's because of the meeting date change that we have. Everything else is pretty much the same from last year. We'll go through and review the applications. After we review all of the materials, I will go through, make things public, send out emails to everyone letting the grantees know that they're welcome to apply from the 16th of January until the 20th of February, and then we'll go through presentations, do scoring, and then refer out to council.
Can you clarify the distinction between March 24 council refers grants and April 21 council approves grants?
So in the process, it will there'll be a referral out, and then you have to go back through again, and then it'll be a resolution where they do the approval. So they'll refer out to, from my understanding, which I'm still learning, so Donald and Jill, if this is incorrect, please jut in. But they'll refer out to the Healthy Neighborhoods, and then you all will do the review, and then we'll push it back to council will they approve the recommendations that the Healthy Neighborhoods Committee makes.
That's correct.
And just to clarify, when in this process will we know the exact amount of funding available to the 2026 applications, which and that question includes both wondering, obviously the budget, but in addition, like 2025 applicants who didn't use up all their funding, if that question makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So probably on January 14th, I should have that number. And again, it'll probably be a rough estimate because we'll probably set aside the roughly $4,000 for the micro grant program. And so the number will change a little bit, but January 14th, I can give a ballpark of the amount of funding we'll have available.
Cool. Any other comments, discussion, questions on this schedule? Thank you, staff, for laying that out so specifically and in such detail. Really appreciate that communication. So agenda item 5D is resolution R23625. It is to approve a contract with Dane County to accept 2026 Neighborhood Navigator funding. In our agenda packet, there was a lot of information about this proposal, this resolution, and I think we want to have a motion first and then we have discussion. Or do we have someone like staff talk about it first and then we do a motion?
No.
Okay,
Motion first.
let's do a motion. Can we have a motion?
Scott says motion first.
Yeah, from chairing several other department meetings like this, we got to have a motion first, then we discuss it. So,
Lovely.
Ari, you had it right the first time. We need a motion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, can we have a motion to approve Resolution R23625 to approve a contract with Dane County to accept 2026 Neighborhood Navigator funding?
Motion so moved.
Second.
Lovely. Can we have any sort of discussion? Maybe staff, you can start us off.
So this is just, like it says, to approve the contract with Dane County for our Navigator program that we have here. The funding is roughly the same as it was last year. I think it's a little bit less, around $24,000. This is to fund their salary, the Navigator's salary, and to move that into 2026, so we have all of that funding for the city of Fitchburg. Any questions?
Questions, comments, concerns? I love that we are getting the Neighborhood Navigator position open again, and I am really excited that it is now going to function across all the priority neighborhoods. So I'm very excited for that. Is there a plan specifically for the Neighborhood Navigator will spend, a certain amount of time each week in this neighborhood or a certain amount of time in this neighborhood? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So in the past, it's been pretty flexible for the Navigator. It's the nature of the role. Most of their role is focused on doing community outreach. And in the winter, that becomes a little slim. In the summer, it's much more beefy. There's a lot going on in the summer, and the Navigator can have quite a bit of hours. And so in the past, it's been very flexible. They just can't go over their hourly limit. The other part is, in the past, we've had 2 navigators. This will be moving to 1 navigator who can allocate more time to this program. So instead of having 2 navigators doing 10 hours a week, the goal is to have 1 navigator doing 10 to 20, whatever they can for that week, depending on what's happening in the community.
Any more questions, discussion, or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. Staff, I see that there's plenty of lines for signatures. Do we need any signatures from this one?
No, that will come from staff here and then the mayor.
That's what I figured. Love that. Okay, agenda item 6, report from department.
Yep, so the biggest report that I have is last night council approved some modifications to the grant program. So now the maximum amount that grantees can apply for is $25,000. The goal of this is to limit the amount of time staff spends, especially when reporting comes through with roughly this year 14 grantees. The hope is to have, when this program initially started, the goal was to grant money to like 5 to 8 organizations, and so it takes a lot of time to get through these applications. So the goal of upping this amount is to give staff back a little bit more time to do other work, but then also for the organizations to be able to have a larger impact on the areas with more funding. And along with that modification in the grant materials, there be some incentivizing to hold some or all or partial of the programming at the hub, the new facility in the North Fish Hatchery neighborhood. Any questions or comments on that?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
Does it seem like that, I'm assuming that still the priority will be to make sure that all of our neighborhoods are fairly equitably serviced by the grant? Does that continue to be the case, even though there's an incentive for for the hub, for example, to be the location of programming?
Yes.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we don't want all programming to be at the hub. It's just to incentivize if people are able to, like Munch, for example, does programming in all 4 of our neighborhoods. It's a great program that the Munch Mobile goes through all 4, and so hopefully just incentivizing people, if they're able to do programming or whole programming there, that they can, just to get kind of bolster some community engagement in that facility. But no, by no means is the plan to only fund organizations doing work at the hub.
Any other report from department?
That's all I have.
Lovely. Agenda item 7, announcements. I've been trying to research more meetings for neighborhood teams, and I do know that the Allied Dunsmarsh Neighborhood Association, there's a group from the city of Madison that meets. The next meeting is Thursday, December 18, 5 to 6 p.m. on Zoom. And then there's also the Allied Dunsmarsh Neighborhood Resource Team, meets on January 1st, 4 to 5:30 p.m. The Leopold Neighborhood Resource Team meets before this meeting every month. So the next one is going to be January 14th, 2 to 3 p.m. again on Zoom. That's again through the city of Madison. They have a neighborhood resource team. And sadly, I cannot ever make those Leopold neighborhood resource team meetings. Those are available to people who want to find them. Any other announcements? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. All right. We are adjourned at 6:37 p.m. Thank you, everyone.